It is mock draft time here on 76ers Now. For the first time this year, going to be diving into my own personal mock draft as the Sixers currently hold the 5th and 36th overall picks in the 2025 NBA draft. Now, of course, NBA's top 14 picks are determined by a lottery, so the Sixers could move up, could move down. In the simulation I ran, they did fall down one spot from 5 to 6, but as long as that pick stays in the top 6, it does remain with Philadelphia. If it falls outside of the top 6, it does go to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So hopefully, come draft night and come the NBA lottery this year, they stay in that top 6. Going to get into my picks here today, who I think are the perfect fits at each selection for the 76ers. But before we do, if you don't know, we do have an Instagram page for 76ers Now over on our IG at 76ers Now IG. Just surpassed 100 followers over there and looking to continue to grow. So if you want even more Sixers content every single day, game recaps, posting short form content that we post on our YouTube Shorts channel here also goes on the Instagram channel, as well as my personal Twitter at Jake Chipper. Just surpassed 200 followers. Looking to grow that brand over there, and always talking ball, always talking Sixers, Eagles. Phillies opening day is today. You can see me rocking the shirt, so want to talk Philly sports, always open to do that over there. So let's get right into the mock draft. As I said, Sixers did fall to 6, and there was some interesting movement in the simulation I ran. Pelicans jumped up to number 1 once again. Lucky enough, they get to draft Cooper Flagg to pair up with Zion over there in New Orleans. The Wizards stay at number 2. They take Dylan Harper out of Rutgers. Miami jumps up to number 3. They land Ace Bailey, the forward, also out of Rutgers. Utah falls from 1 to 4. They still land VJ Edgecombe, guard, out of Baylor. And then the Hornets end up with a number 5 pick. They take Trey Johnson, the guard out of Texas, who has been a pretty popular selection with the 76ers in mock drafts. So that left me, the GM of the Sixers in this scenario, pretending I'm Daryl Morey, at number 6, with an interesting few selections, choices I could go with here. My top available players when I was deliberating, Kasparas Jakučionis, he is a baller for Illinois. He was great in the tournament. Kon Knueppel out of Duke, as well as Kaman Malawach out of Duke, 2 of Cooper Flagg's teammates that are going to be top 10 picks this year. Jeremiah Fears, a late riser, really, out of Oklahoma, the guard. And then Derek Queen. You didn't see his game winner, man. It's not just that. He does a lot of other good things well for Maryland, the center there. But looking at these top available guys, with the 6th overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft, I had to go ahead and select Kon Knueppel. I could not pass on a player that I think is a perfect fit for the 76ers, even if he might not be my top available player talent-wise on the board. What he brings to the table is exactly what the 76ers need. You take a look at what he did and is doing. Obviously, as Duke is still alive in the NCAA tournament this year. 14.1 points, just under 4 rebounds, just under 3 assists, an efficient score at about 47% from the field, and where he really thrives and really excels behind that three-point line, 39.3% from 3, and that was on 5.4 attempts a game. So he's getting them up and he's knocking them down. Going to dive into a full scouting report here on Kon Knueppel in just a second, but I want to hear your opinion. Would you draft Kon Knueppel? Do you agree with me on this selection here at number 6 overall? Would you go someone else looking at who was still available on the board? Just give me a yes or no down in the comments section. So Kon Knueppel, just under 20 years old, will be turning 20 years old very shortly here. Listed at 6'7", probably closer to 6'6", but we'll go with his listed height. We'll give him that extra inch. Pause. Weight coming in at 217 pounds. Wingspan at 6'6". This is a little bit of an issue with him that people have noticed when they've scouted Kon Knueppel. Arms are a little bit short. You like to see that be a little bit longer there, but it does impact him a little bit on the defensive side of things, which we'll get to, but he has plenty of strengths that make him this pick here at number 6 for me. And again, as I mentioned, that starts with the three-point shooting ability. He is a tremendous three-point shooter, off the move, catch and shoot, pull up. He is exactly what the Sixers need in terms of a floor spacer on that wing spot, who also has the height at 6'7" to play on the wing. He has elite efficiency as well. He's putting up a lot of shots, and he's making a lot of them from the floor, from the free throw line. He is a great free throw shooter. That obviously bodes well for a player like him. He's also a good playmaker. He's not just one of those guys. You might be thinking right now, we're just taking a guy that can shoot, can't do anything else at the 6th overall pick. That's not the case with Kon Knueppel. He can put the ball on the floor. He can run that pick and roll. He's done a very good job with him and Kon Knueppel at Duke running the pick and roll. He always knows where to go with the ball at the right place at the right time. He doesn't have, Kyrie Irving level handles talking about guys out of Duke, but he can put it on the floor. He can get to his spots and he can make the right plays. He also a okay defender, not great, but he's not awful either, which sometimes is a concern with these types of players who are profiled as just strictly shooters. And he's also okay, but not great, not bad either, at getting that mid-range jumper up and finishing through traffic in the lane. Now, where he does struggle, and this is where the majority of the criticism is going to be on Knueppel, is defensively, which we will get to some of his defensive deficiencies out there. It's not awful as I mentioned, but it's certainly not great either. And with his shorter wingspan, could get him into trouble in the NBA. Not a good rebounder either, despite being 6'7", doesn't really crash the glass. And despite being an efficient free throw shooter, because he lacks some athleticism, sort of a meh athlete, not great, not bad, he kind of struggles to get to the rim at times and get to the free throw line, where he could really add on to some of his game and add on to some of that scoring element if he was able to get to the line, finish through traffic. He's not a guy that's going to go up there and slam it on your head, right? He's a good athlete, but not a great athlete. Probably would be in the bottom when it comes to NBA athletes. Now, The Ringer had a good breakdown of Kon Knueppel's game that I wanted to share that I think kind of covers everything of who he really is as a player. This is what Kyle Mann of The Ringer had to say. High-level floor spacers who can knock down shots from behind the arc in a variety of ways do not typically come in a brawny, bully ball body type, but Knueppel has a chance to be one of the best of a rare bunch. He's a major threat after setting a screen, and he's money spotting up as a spacer. 47% on spot-up threes this season. That shooting prowess, combined with his ability to consistently make basic reads and the flashes of creating his own shot in the mid-range, have had my mind spinning about what else he could become. Knueppel's ability to navigate off-ball actions or contain ball handlers on an island in the NBA is a real question mark. Physical improvement, specifically lateral mobility and strength, will be on the docket in the pros, but his mastery of smaller details will likely make the difference between whether he'll sink or swim on that end. And look, Knueppel this season for the Duke Blue Devils, he was an ACC All-Freshman, second-team All-ACC as a freshman, as well as the ACC Tournament MVP after Cooper Flagg went down with his injuries. He might not be that super high-end player that you might think of when you are looking at the top of the draft, but he's I think a pretty safe player who does have some potential because he's not, again, just a shooter. He's someone who can do a little bit more. Now, when you project forward with his NBA role, some of his NBA comparisons, on that high end, you always want to give a high-end comp and a low-end comp because, of course, you never know what these guys are going to be like once they get into the NBA and get that NBA-level coaching. On the high end, he can be a Desmond Bane-level player. And I love this comparison a lot because Desmond Bane, very similar in the fact that obviously a great shooter, but someone who, when you look at the wingspan in particular, Desmond Bane's got some short arms, man, some T-Rex arms. And while Knueppel, not necessarily like those tiny little arms you might think of when you think of Bane. Now, Bane also, he's jacked, so it looks a little bit weirder because of that aspect of things. But both guys that can shoot the heck out of the ball. Shorter arms had concerns on defense, but also showed they can do a little bit more with the ball in their hands. Now, of course, if those elements of Kon Knueppel's game, getting to the mid-range, getting to the free throw line, getting to the basket, becoming a little bit of a better defender, if that does not all come together, low end, he could be a Nick Stauskas type of player who, great in college, but got to the NBA, just could not hang on defense. His shot wasn't quite falling like people might projected, and did not have a very long career in the NBA. Former Sixer, of course. Hopefully, Kon Knueppel can be a little bit better than that if the Sixers do take him. And again, this might not be a flashy pick. This might not be the guy that you're looking as the savior of your franchise, someone who has that superstar level ceiling. I don't think Knueppel would ever be a all-star level player, But I think he can be, again, like a Desmond Bane, who's right below that all-star level tier, someone who a championship and contending level team would love to have. And the Sixers are in such an interesting situation because unlike a lot of other teams that are at the top of the draft in the lottery, they do have a lot of talent on the squad. And they're not looking for a full-on rebuild. They're looking to make a playoff run next year. And I think Kon Knueppel would be able to step in right away, whether he's starting at the 3, coming off the bench. Either way, the Sixers just need somebody else on the roster who can score the basketball and make the right reads, make the right passes. And Kon Knueppel, if he's out there knocking down 40% of his three-point shots for the Sixers on 6 attempts a game, that would be beautiful, and I would take that all day with the 6th overall pick. Going to get to who I have the Sixers selecting here with the 36th overall pick in just a second. But of course, as I mentioned, today is opening day, Thursday, March 27th. The Phillies play baseball again on the road in Washington, taking on the Nationals, of course, Bryce Harper's former team. And if you're excited and you want to get ready for the start of this Phillies season, go get yourself some Phillies gear with our friends at Fanatics. Chatsports.com/Phillies25. You plug in that link, you can go find plenty of shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, crew necks, jerseys, hats, anything you could possibly need to get ready for this season. When you're going down to Citizens Bank Park, you're going to have to be looking good, so get yourself some fresh Phillies gear. Again, that's chatsports.com/Phillies25. I'll have that in the comment section and the description of today's show. So, with the 36th overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft, I have the 76ers going with a raw athletic forward out of Arizona, and that is Carter Bryant. Now, we're going to talk about Carter Bryant and a very, very different player from Kon Knueppel, who I also think would be a great fit with the 76ers, but for much different reasons. This is an upside swing here in the second round, where Kon Knueppel, you kind of know what you're getting from him, and there is still some upside there, but it's more you hope that shooting can pair with some ball handling. Carter Bryant is raw. He uses his athleticism to his advantage, but he's someone that you're really projecting forward because when you take a look at what he did this past season, man, the numbers will not jump off the page at all. 6.5 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. Efficiency does look solid, but of course, when you're scoring that little, you're not going to look at that and say, wow, that's really impressive. It kind of makes sense when you're not taking that many shots. You'd like to see a little bit better efficiency, but this does not tell the full story, and we will get there. So for Carter Bryant, also coming in just under 20 years old, 19.6, standing at 6'8", 225, with a 7-foot wingspan. So when you pair that size and that wingspan, that length, with his athleticism, you can start to see the mold of a player who teams would be intrigued by because of his physical tools and his potential more so than what we've seen on the floor from him in his 1 year with Arizona. Now, his strengths, his calling card is going to be his elite defensive upside. Someone who can guard legitimately 1 through 5, every position on the floor, has, the IQ is building, has the awareness that's building, but his athleticism, his tools, he can truly project to be one of the better perimeter defenders in the NBA if he can reach that high end potential. We've already been seeing a lot of that from him this season with Arizona. He's also an excellent cutter and mover off the ball, which you'd love to see for a player like him, who offense isn't going to run through somebody like Carter Bryant. You're not going to put the ball in his hands and ask him to go get you a bucket every possession. But he's a guy, he's not just going to stand there in the corner and hope to get the ball. He's going to make things happen when he's off the ball, put pressure on the defense. I like to see that with guys like this. He's also a solid spot-up shooter. So it's not just all defense with Carter Bryant. He can shoot the ball a little bit. When he gets his feet set and he gets a clean look, he's going to knock it down. Now, of course, with a player like this, you're going to have a few more weaknesses and a few more questions. Not really a shot creator at all. He can do it a little bit, but as I mentioned, he's not someone you're going to give the ball to and tell you to go get yourself a bucket. He is not a good movement shooter. So although he is a good spot-up shooter when his feet are set and he gets a clean look, coming off a catch, moving to his left or to his right, shooting pull-ups, not really his game. That's something he's going to have to develop. Not sure if that's ever going to really be a part of his game, though, given what we've seen from him so far. And overall, he's just a raw prospect. This season at Arizona has only played 16 minutes per game in those 36 games. So we haven't really got to see too much basketball from him. But over the past few weeks and leading into the tournament, Arizona has given him some more run, and that's why he's starting to rise up draft boards a little bit, because we're starting to see him become a little bit more unlocked with his game. Now, I want to get to what Keenan Womack here of Sports Illustrated had to say on Carter Bryant, because again, I think this paints a good picture of the prospect. The major flashes so far, outside of the ability to hit the occasional contested three on the defensive end, where Bryant has made a name for himself with his footwork and mobility, stays in a good defensive stance, and is very active with his hands. He serves as a disruptive force that can make plays and push the ball in transition, as evidenced by his 1.9 stocks per game. If you don't know, stocks is steals and blocks. He can also serve as a play finisher in transition due to his elite leaping ability and great ability to complete alley-oops. The knocks on Bryant come from his lack of usage. As previously mentioned, stats are not impressive on the surface, but when adjusted for more time on the floor, the numbers do look a little more impressive. Should he be drafted into the right environment, he could have a very effective role on a good team quickly in his career. Looking at some of his NBA comparisons, kind of reminds me on the high end of someone like a Trevor Ariza. Remember back in the day, a great defender who developed a good offensive game. You know, some people might only remember Trevor Ariza now at the end of his career, but in his prime, Trevor Ariza was a baller. Also somewhat similar to Trey Murphy of the Pelicans, who, you know, if you know Trey Murphy, was in the dunk contest. He could shoot the piss out of the ball, and he's a very good defender. If you get a player like Trey Murphy in the second round, that is an absolute steal. Of course, that is if he reaches his high-end potential developing that offensive game, which does need a lot of work because he is very raw. If it doesn't come around, could be looking at a player like Kevin Knox, who obviously did not pan out for the New York Knicks, has been around the NBA a bunch now, never was able to get his offensive game together with the athletic tools he had. So that's, the worry with a player like this, and that's why he's a second-round pick. Now, granted, 36 overall in the draft is high in the second round. So this isn't like back end of the second taking a random swing. Like, this is a guy who is getting a little bit of back end of the first round buzz. So it's not, a total, shot in the dark, swing and miss type of pick. I think he does have a little more tools than your typical second round flyer. But of course, there's always the risk where that shot doesn't start falling. The defense is just good, not great. Maybe he's just a Matisse Thybulle kind of player like we saw here in Philadelphia, someone who can play well defensively, but never really finds it offensively, and thus it's hard to keep on the floor. But I like taking the swing, taking the risk here at pick 36 for a potential OG Anunoby type of player, if you want to think of it that way as well. Those are my two picks. Kon Knueppel at number 6 overall, and then Carter Bryant at number 36 overall. Grade my mock draft, grade my picks down in the comment section. You can flame me, you can agree with me. Just let me know A, B, C, D, or F down in the comment section right now. And of course, as we approach the end of the regular season for the Sixers and the NBA playoffs, Sixers won't be in the playoffs, so we're going to be looking a lot towards the offseason. We'll have plenty more NBA draft coverage, the lottery, the draft, free agency, all the offseason coverage you need on the 76ers here on the channel. So be sure, don't miss out on anything this offseason. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time here on the show.